sort of have to chuckle when they describe you and me as being dangerous. That's one thing, they are telling the truth, because we are dangerous to the status quo of this country.
Ron Paul is here. He retired from Congress in January after serving 12 terms as a representative from Texas. He dedicated his long political career to advocating libertarian principles, individual liberty, economic freedom, and non-interventionist foreign policy. He ran for president on that platform 3 times. He has been called the intellectual godfather of the Tea Party movement. In his new book, he writes about America's education system and proposes changes to fix it. It is called The School Revolution, a new answer for our broken education system. I am pleased to have him here at this table for the first time. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
It's about time you came here. No. So before we talk about the book and education, and the book's called The School Revolution, a new answer for our broken education system, as I said, define what libertarianism means to you.
You know, to me, the word I use to best define it is something not a lot of people use. I call it non-intervention. Yeah. And
non-intervention in personal life, non-intervention in foreign policy, non-intervention in...
There it is. You know. Because it sort of tells you what conservatives and libertarians and constitutionalists and classical liberalism has been used closely as a line, with libertarianism. But non-intervention, as you say, I don't want to interfere in your personal life. The one rule is you can't hurt another person. That's when government's necessary.
Your freedom ends at the beginning of the person's nose.
And the founders were pretty adamant about advice about not getting involved in entangling alliances or interfering in the internal affairs of other nations. So that's non-intervention. And then also in the economy, sometimes I get close allies with the left. An honest, progressive Democrat like a Dennis Kucinich we were always work together on civil liberties and foreign policy. But then when it came to economic policy, I apply the same rule of non-intervention to economics. Now, they say, well, you mean that means business people can do anything they want? No, there's still some very basic rules.
That's why I'm asking the question. I mean, what kind of regulation are you prepared to think is necessary in a capitalist system?
Mostly they're not government regulations. They're not preemption. I look at this like if you're in the media business, the one thing you don't want is prior restraint, because the government is going to tell you what you can say and what you can't say. Well, I apply that to economics. You produce a product and there's no prior restraint. You say, well, how do you get this protection? The free market is pretty strict on regulation.
So you wouldn't want to see a FDA?
No, they do
You have to get their approval before you can market a drug.
Yeah, and the FDA is run by individuals who used to be in the drug. They're connected with the.
Well, you can't just dismiss it that way. I mean, there's an idea here, brother, that they're corrupt people because of whatever.
Most of the time, when you have regulations, say you regulate banking, the banking lobby writes those. If it's FDA,
okay, but stay with it. Okay, but let's assume what you're saying
is true. Well, that's good. That's one good reason not to do it.
Okay, the pharmaceutical company controls the FDA.
Right.
Is that your point?
Yeah.
And so, therefore, whatever they do is what?
Well, sometimes they prevent good drugs from coming out, and sometimes they endorse bad drugs.
But isn't that they keep bad drugs from coming out? Is that a useful purpose?
Yes. But
and that's prior restraint then?
Yes, but you're making the assumption that in the market there would be nobody to supervise. There would be supervisory organizations that would watch.
Voluntary organizations?
Yeah, I mean, you have a good housekeeping seal of approval that people use all the time.
You believe that would work with respect to drugs when you know
I think it will not be perfect, but what we have today is so imperfect because the assumption is made that most business people don't want to take good care of their customers. And I think that's wrong. I think most business people...
Yeah, but the question is not what most want to do. The question is how do you make sure those who don't want to take care of their customers, who want to do otherwise, that there is some barrier from them doing it?
Yeah, if you want perfect safety in any area, in social matters...
Not perfect, but it minimize the kind of things that, whether it's,
Yeah, I think every regulation creates the necessity of having 2 new regulations, and that's why the Federal Register grows all the time. They don't solve the problems. They are unintended consequences. There's expenses involved. But the assumption is...
all bad regulation. I mean, as long as there are regulations that don't serve the purpose, you should have no regulations.
I want regulations by the marketplace because there are something you can't